Hello everybody, so for the next video I have decided to participate in the Orillium Magical Readathon. So there is a booktuber named G and she created a magical readathon. Readathons are basically challenges where you generally get prompts to read certain books or certain types of books and you have a certain amount of time to fulfill it. But this one is the most planned and thought out and complex that I have seen so far. It's really, really cool. She created a whole world and creatures and different races and lands, and there's a magical school, and it basically is fulfilling my childhood wish of, or the closest I can get to fulfilling my childhood wish of getting my Hogwarts letter, or my current adult wish of being invited to play D&D. So I decided to participate. I'm not going to do the same time restraints because I'm starting from the very beginning, which technically the first part of the readathon has already passed. It happened last year, I believe. But I didn't want to just hop right in because there's all this character development that takes place in the first couple videos, so I wanted to start from the very beginning. So let's hop into it. So we have our magical realm. So here is our magical world, which is called Aldea, and then basically the land used to be one giant continent, but a meteor called the Amalur struck the continent in the middle there where you see Orillium, and it split the land into 4 parts, and those are the 4 different lands we have there: Dark Meadow, Carador, Etheria, and Dayrune. And in the middle we have, like I said, Orillium, which is where we have our magical academy. Orillium basically is like a hotspot for all this magic that was brought in with the meteor. There was magic before, but it wasn't as accessible and well spread throughout the planet. So there is another academy, and maybe several other academies in this world that sorcerers or people hoping to become wizards or sorcerers can attend, but this one, Orillium, is known for being very hard to get into, and it's also where you go, from my understanding, to really get into, well, to really specialize in a subject and just really deeply delve into it, into the magic. So before going to Orillium, I of course had to make a character. So there are a few different races to choose your character from. Alright, so we have humans, the elves, earthlings, and they are associated with the 4 elements, so there's 4 different, I guess, main forms. And then we have the Iltyrians, the Skymorn, and the dwarves. So I'm not going to go into the characteristics of each race because I feel like it would take a while, but if you want to know more or if you want to participate in this challenge, I will link it down below, so definitely look into it. But the race that I chose for my character is the Skymorn, so I will tell you a little bit about them. So the Skymorn are thought to have possibly originated from the Amalur's home, which the Amalur, remember, is the meteor that hit Aldea. And they are immortal beings. They look like wisps, which is that thing in the center and between the 2 beings, but they really kind of want to experience everything. They're very curious, so most of them actually trade their immortality for a biological form at around 200 years old. So G has given us this scholar's key to write down things about our character, and some of these things actually later correspond to reading prompts. But instead of printing it out, I decided to just write the questions or prompts down on a piece of paper. So I will show you guys what I have written. Okay, so some of these you aren't able to fill out completely at first, but I filled out what I could. So my character's name is Selenia, and I was inspired by the element selenium for no reason other than I thought it sounded pretty, so that's what I chose. Guild and Calling, we find out later. Certification, I believe they're a novice because they haven't done anything yet. Background, wilding versus urban, so wilding would be like born in the wild versus in a city. So I said they are wilding and they are from Dark Meadow. So let me pull up Dark Meadow here. So Dark Meadow is one of the 4 lands in Aldea. It is at least above ground, thought to be pretty inhospitable and mountainous and very cold. And most of the people there live underground, and most of the inhabitants are Iltyrians, and they have this huge underground library, basically, that they guard fiercely. Now, I decided that my character, because they are a Skymorn, so they were originally this wisp that no one really knows for sure where they came from, that my character just appeared above ground in Dark Meadow, and who knows what all they went through in that early time. There are rumors that there might be dragons on Dark Meadow, and honestly, who knows, because every time Selenia tells the story of their, I guess, childhood, you could say, it sounds a little different. So that is where they are from, so that's why I put wilding. So that also answers the next question of province, Dark Meadow. Then for heritage, of course, I put Skymorn. For lunar phase at birth, I am not sure of the significance of these, so I just put alignment, which I think is the sun and the moon and the earth all lining up, because I thought that sounded cool. Conduit and Guild's Legacy, again, I don't have yet. And for scholars traits, I said that Selenia is someone who wants to just experience everything as much as possible. That's why they took on a biological form in the first place. They are a daredevil, sometimes recklessly so, but they are very compassionate towards other creatures and other beings. And physically, the guide had said that Skymorn can often be tough to distinguish from one another. They tend to all look pretty identical, and so they will take on certain physical traits to help others identify them. And so I said that Selenia has blue hair and also swirling tattoos up and down their arms. I wish that I was more of an artist, that I could draw them for you, but that's not gonna happen. It would be a stick figure. Now here we have the Traveler's Key, which tells you what books or what types of books to read, basically to create your character based on what characteristics you chose. So for example, my character is wilding instead of urban, so I need to read a book largely set in a forest/outside. So then next we have province. So because they are from Dark Meadow, we need to read Dark Academia. And then for heritage, because they are Skymorn, I need to read one of the oldest books I own or have on my TBR. So, like I said, I'm not setting a time limit for myself. I don't think I'm going to do a separate vlog for this. I think I'm just going to try to pay attention with the upcoming books that I read, if they fit any of these prompts, and then hopefully cross them off the list. So now I have my character, which is all fine and good and really exciting, but you can't just walk into Orillium Academy. You have to take your first challenge, and that is the Novice Path. So this is the pathway that it takes to get to Orillium, and you start down here, and you go all the way to the Orillium Arc. and that is a portal which takes you to Orillium, because Orillium itself is a floating school. I will show you. And here is Orillium Academy. So, like I said, floating. You can see the portal down here. That's where the arc leads. So that is where I need to get to, or my character needs to get to. Now, G created this entire story around this path with questions along the way, and your answers to the questions at the end will let you know which guild in Orillium Academy you will end up in. So, guild, from my understanding, is a little similar to like a house, or it's kind of the classmates that you're going to spend a lot of your time with, and you have your own sort of place of retreat. You have certain skills and certain topics of study, although you can go beyond that, and certain gifts and things as well. So the choices that you make along this treacherous path will lead to, at the end, you getting chosen by one of the 4 guilds. So I'm going to tell you guys how my path went, or my character's path went, and what choices they ended up making. So everyone starts at the start to the Novice Path. Of course, we have this little tent symbol here, which I'm assuming is the inn where we meet our fellow travelers, and once we leave in the morning, we go into the forest until we reach the ash thorn tree. And this is a gigantic tree. Interestingly enough, there are no living creatures in its branches. It is covered with inscriptions, very magical. We also hear all these whisperings, and it's all sorts of different sounds, cries and screams and laughs and singing, but in a whisper. And we know that we would have to get a permit to actually explore this tree because it can be very dangerous, and so this is the first choice. We are given 4 choices with what we are going to do. Basically we're going to leave it behind, if we're going to sneak over to it later, because we're with a giant party of people. So my character, because they are very daring, decided to go with choice D, which is: you believe that the energy of those ancient is inherently intertwined with our own and is meant to be shared to live on. You plan on coming back after dark to touch the tree and siphon energy, power, and magic to learn it, to both honor it and prepare for the journey ahead. So that was choice 1. Next, while we were there, a giant dire wolf attacks one of our companions. The companion does not make it. The wolf, which is kind of like a shadow wolf, magic wolf, no magic is working against it, and it lunges for your character, my character, but one of our companions is able to kill it with a non-magical arrow. So after that trauma, we move on. That is when we go into the Mist of Solitude. So the Mist of Solitude is a giant fog that no one can go around. You must go through it, and you're not able to go with somebody else. You have to go alone, and then once you're in there, you can't even have any items with you. Nothing will come through with you. And basically, breathing in the mist causes you to have these terrible hallucinations that cause you to see your worst fears. So that is when we get our next question, which is, again, what do you do? And my character decided to conjure a dust devil to help disperse the mist. Alright, so we pass through the Mist of Solitude, and also, excuse me, apologies if you can hear my neighbor's party music, or maybe not apologies, I guess it's some background music if you like, so you're welcome, I guess. So anyway, we were passing through the Mist of Solitude and going to the Ruin of the Sky. And that is a place that was kind of like a resting place for the original people that traveled to Orillium. And so there's a lot of history there. while we are there, sort of underground or in the lower levels, we run into a foreboding figure, kind of like a person in a hooded figure, and they seem to be moving strangely, like their limbs, they don't have full control of their limbs. Maybe their limbs are broken, and they might be hurt or they might be threatening. And so that's when we run into the next question, which is, what do you do? And my character, because they are a very empathetic character, I said that they would be, I think they may be injured and in need of help. Quickly run your eyes over them in search for wounds and injuries in need of treatment. Well, what ends up happening is another member of the party approaches the figure and asks if they need help. And as soon as they do so, an angry spirit separates from the body, and the body sort of falls to the ground. And at the same time, my character feels a prick, like a small stabbing, and then the body wakes up, and it's a woman named Mira, who was actually from a party traveling to Orillium 2 years ago, but then got kind of possessed by this spirit. So Mira decides to keep traveling with us. We go to Obsidian Falls next, up here, and all of a sudden we all start to fall ill, feel really sick, except for Mira, and we realize that we've been poisoned. And we realized that the poison occurred when we felt that prick when the spirit left, so maybe that was the spirit's kind of final act of vengeance when they left Mira's body. So, the next question again, what do you do? And my character decides to do C, which is gather yourself, focus, and jump to the point before the poison gets into your system, folding time itself. You won't be able to do this again anytime soon, but this occasion grants it. So we do that, other characters do their own things, and we all manage to survive, and then we travel to the Tower of Rumination. This is the next to last stop before we can take the Orillium Arc to Orillium itself. An eccentric wizard meets us at the door of the tower and invites us in. We spend the night there, and the next morning we are called into a chamber one by one and asked to pick a scroll, and my character chooses the Scroll of Illusions. And these scrolls kind of correspond to the different guilds at Orillium. So after I choose the scroll, a portal opens up, and that is the Orillium Arc, and that takes us to Orillium. Almost forgot to mention that in order to actually complete this path, this Novice Path to Orillium, there are also some reading prompts. So here are the prompts, and you only have to complete 2 of them to get through to Orillium. So you can choose any 2, or you can do more. And the prompts are to read a book with a map to get you through the entrance. At the Ashthorn Tree, you want to read a book that keeps tempting you, or is at the top of your TBR, your to-be-read list. At the Mists of Solitude, you want to read a standalone. At the Ruin of Sky, read a book featuring ghosts, haunted house, or other supernatural elements. At Obsidian Falls, read a thriller or mystery book. At the Tower of Rumination, read a 5-star prediction. And at Orillium Academy Arc, read a book with a school setting. But I wanted to show you the logo for my guild, or my character's guild, that the choices led to, and that is the Archivists. And the Archivists are basically keepers of the lore, the history of Aldea, and we chase after different stories. We know about the ancient stories. They are also able to enter into a pact with a god and channel that god's magic, and also ask that god for aid whenever needed. They also are given access to the Great Library, and often take special interest in restoration and are able to heal things or fix or restore broken things. So I was surprised that my character got this guild, actually. I thought that they might have gotten
one of the other ones. But yeah, I think it does seem a little more active going around the world chasing for stories than just sitting around reading, and my character does like to explore and to discover new things. So I guess in that sense, it makes a lot of sense.
So that's the end of my journey for now. Stay tuned for part 2. And like I said, I'll keep you updated with if the books that I'm reading from now on fit with any of the requirements. You might notice it'll kick in about halfway through my August TBR because I have been updating it. Or not TBR, but books that I read. Wrap up, that's what they're called. And yeah, so I will see you guys later. Thanks for taking this journey with me.